part 3 of training a Harris's hawk. So if you've hopefully watched part 1 and part 2, you will now know that I'm training a 16-week-old hawk in mid-January. Daytime temperature today, -1. A far cry from hopefully the summer collected young bird that you guys are going to be working with. You're going to have problems of keeping your bird certainly in the shade to start with, not letting it bait on a perch or get at all stressed in the heat of the day. My biggest worry is everything is frozen solid. I've brought Henry up to the Falconry Centre today because my garden is pretty much in shade and it is rock hard, but there's a nice sunny patch up here where it's thawed out. I can get a bow perch in easily. My problem is worrying about wingtip edema with a bird that's going to bait and possibly touch frozen ground. So I found a nice thawed out patch in the sunshine. We're going to pop him out here. We're going to leave him with some food and we're going to unhood him and walk away, disassociating for now us with the food. Don't hold your hawk back. Train it as fast as it will train, but don't rush. Rushing almost always leads to cutting a bird's weight unnecessarily, and that'll certainly be another big helpful thing to inducing a bird to scream and being vocal. You don't want that. We don't need to rush. If we feed this guy off the glove, this one's so steady, he probably will feed off the glove this evening, whatever. I've took him away from his parents at 16 weeks old and his siblings. Harris hawks are social. All of a sudden, I'm the one handing him the food. Give the bird 4 days, even a week, you decide, of eating on its own. Spy on it, don't let it see you. Eating on its own as much as it will eat in a sitting. It won't eat a lot, it won't get any fatter, don't panic. And there's a reason for that. If the bird's eating okay on its own, on a perch, you know it's getting food in, and that bird that's had a few days to settle and feed on its own will train much faster, with much less weight reduction, getting that boy or girl flying on the creance. It'll make a huge difference, and it will give it just a few days of independence, just being on its own, feeding itself. It will help somewhat. So remember, if you've got a nice longbow shaped bow perch, put it somewhere shady in the summer. Don't put a water bowl down, remember, it could drown in that. But if you want to keep in with your laws of your country, you might have to have water present at all times, fresh water present at all times for an animal. Put a small cat bowl down next to it. It's not going to drink or anything like that. However, guys, if the bird of prey can get all of its water requirements from the food it eats, which it can, it doesn't need to drink. If it's not eating because of nerves and its new surroundings, it's not getting any moisture either. Let me pop him down a second. Okay, things to observe. A D-shaped bow perch. They're rubbish. I've got loads of them from yesteryear. A longbow shaped bow perch. The ring slides much better. That means it's not going to drag the leash through your bird's tail. Make sure the bird can't hit any objects when it baits. Nice soft grass. I'm doing it in the sun, you're in the summer. I would think place it in the shade. If you can, a hedgerow around the sides. As long as its wings can't touch it when it baits, it'll feel more secure than you tethering a bird in the middle of your lawn. Refer to chapter 1 if you like, part 1. What's going to stop a predator eating your hawk? Have you built a wired enclosure, or are you and your dogs around all the time? I know top quality falconers that have gone in to answer a phone and a fox in broad daylight has ran into their garden and eaten their hawk. Probably more problematic in suburbia than in the countryside, believe it or not. We're going to get this guy some food. There's no water bath that he can bait off into and suck up water. Just that sunshine on him must feel absolutely great. Probably one of the most important things I can tell you, especially with a young hawk. Look how short, I've got a leash extender. Look how short that leash is tied. It could do with being cut shorter. There's 3 falconers knots in there and a bit besides. Guys, please don't add a long leash to your young hawk thinking you're being kind, enabling it much more freedom of movement. You are being cruel. 16-week-old leg bones, they are not fully ossified. They are like a young teenager's arm bones in humans. they're not fully calcified. The longer the leash, when this bird suddenly baits for fear, the further it can go, the faster the speed it is, and the more abrupt the stop, all pulling on those ankles. Harrisawks, so many every year, seem to get fractures and breaks in their legs because falconers do not understand what they're doing. Keep the leash short, do not make it long. A couple of things worth mentioning at this point. Remember, you've weighed the hawk when you've picked it up from the mews this morning, and you've recorded that weight, of course. I always leave the birds hooded, at least for the first few days, until they're not as nervous around me. Saves them banging around and upsetting themselves during the night. You've put your bird away in your mews on a loop perch setup. Who knows, maybe you've tethered it to a bow perch in your what will be a free loft with no other branches around that it could try and get to. But I put my birds away hooded to start with if the hood fits okay. Weigh the bird in the morning. Remember, I'm working in mid-January. He's been in my house in a cool room in a night box as well. It's freezing out here. Very unusual time of year to be training a young hawk. So we've got him out hooded, we've weighed him, we've tethered him. Let's get this guy some food. I've soaked the food in water to warm it up. It doesn't hurt to do that with a chick or something in the summer to add more moisture. Why are we using chicks and nothing better quality? Because even the breeders that feed high quality diets to their Harrisawks will likely feed some chicks as well. And it has a big yolk sac in there. That's offering the bird moisture. Remember, if it's eating very little, it's getting very little moisture. Think of the added pressure on this bird's renal system, its kidneys and so on, because it's not only going without food, it's going without a drink, because it gets its drink mostly from its food. Hopefully that time lapse showing a couple of things. One, this bird's probably going to go really easily, which, to be honest, for this video, it would make sense and be better if it was a really difficult one. We'll see. But obviously, I think you learn more if I can say, look, this has gone wrong and this is why. It's all gone a bit textbook so far. We're early days, aren't we? But you saw the bird. It's sort of trying to understand its kit. It doesn't understand why it can't bait away. Saw the food, ate the food. Brilliant. I can tell you now, occasionally you'll get a hawk that will take the best part of a week to feed no matter what. That obviously is worrying. It's going to fight with its Jesses. It's going to try and understand its kit. Keep the leash short, remember. Don't let it get hot. If your bird baits and then lays on its tummy, sort of spread eagled, excuse the pun, if it's not tangled or really panting heavily, just leave it a little while. It'll probably get back up. If not, just slide your hand under its chest and lift it to its feet, walk away. Don't stress it out more. If the bird is constantly banging at its leash length, really getting hot and bothered, pick it up, hood it, pop it on its perch, hood it, let it get used to sitting in the hood, but just let it calm down. You're not going to gain anything by letting the poor thing just get massively stressed. You might have to, little by little, but the hood will mean you can stop massive amount of stress ever occurring while you train this bird. It's a completely, I was going to say a novel way to train Harrisawks, which is ridiculous. Learning to hood your falconry bird is a very basic part of falconry. It's just people don't seem to bother because they get very lazy with how they train their birds. Employ the hood. It's going to make a massive difference to how we train these birds. They're going to not have masses of stress and anxiety, collapsing on the glove and so on and so forth. We've got to pick him up now. We're going to pick him up off the perch. We're going to do a little bit of hooding work. If you are reading a book or someone's told you, making low to the hawk, so you're not over like towering above it, making low to the hawk, slide your hands up the leash, pick the hawk up, and then if it baits before you get there, stay low, back off a little bit, wait for it to get back on its perch, and then try again. The bird sees you as a predator coming towards it no matter what at this stage. So it flies away with fear, it's brought down by its leash, and then you just hang there. Eventually, sooner or later it might jump back on its perch and think this is the highest place I can get. And as soon as it keeps still again, you start to stalk it and approach it and frighten it again. Do you know what? Go low, go relatively quickly but without rushing. Run your hand up the leash if the bird's baited, lift it up, get it on its glove, your glove. If it hangs upside down, it baits off and it just hangs there, leave it hanging there while you very quickly undo the leash from the, untie the bird from the perch, tie it to your glove. Remember, safety position. Tie the bird to your D-ring of your glove in case you make a mistake and it flies off. You won't see me tie on. Don't do what I do. Do as I say. That leash should either be tethered to the perch or your glove in case you make a mistake. Always hold the bird in safety position. Let's show you what I mean. So he's eating his food. I've only given him one chick today. He's looking for a bit more actually. I didn't expect him to eat even half a chick. I thought usually they'll have some food and then their nerves will get the better of them like this. But believe me, giving him time alone to feed on his own, on his perch, not forcing him to feed on your glove. Remember, we're not talking goshawks, we're talking harrisawks, redtails. To be honest, most of my falcons and golden eagle. This is going to be the best approach to train this bird. But he hasn't got back on his bow perch. He probably will actually, this guy, sooner or later. But we're going to pick him up and see what he does. So we're holding him high. Feels a bit safer, higher. And we're just going to concentrate on removing the leash, tie it onto your D-ring, get rid of the slack loops. Safety position. When the bird baits, don't let its wings hit the perch or anything else. You can lift up from the front to help him. All those jesses in so he can't foot you easily. Lift up from the chest. Steady him on your glove. Or lift him up from his back. People have real preferences about that, what they feel is right and wrong. I don't. Just if you lift from the chest, make sure the leash, the jesses are pulled through your fingers so he can't lift his feet up and stick them through your hands. So away from the perch, into space. Just for you guys. Either way works. Okay guys, hopefully I can crop this camera angle at the end of this recording. So the bird's hooded. Safety position is when the bird's jesses are passed through the back of your fingers. So should the bird bait and pull these jesses, slip through your fingers, easily done, the swivel will make a backstop against your fingers. Do not pick your hawk up and untie it from the perch until you've engaged safety position. Whether you use a leash extender or not, the swivel will hit the back of your fingers. The bird won't slip away. If your bird slips through your fingers with a leash or just a swivel on, it's going to die tangled up in a tree. This, an absolute must. Safety position, then untie your bird. So you're going to do a little bit of manning. You're going to walk the bird around. If it can stand on the glove, more or less, after a bait, get out, get moving. Don't sit still reading a book. Let it see stuff come and go as much as it can take. But the hood is going to help you massively with that. And you are starting with hood training from the first moment that bird is on your glove. That is imperative, because what I would like to think is your young harrisawk is actually, when it's on the glove and it will stand on the glove, will actually not have its wings folded like this. It will be staring you in the face without blinking, with its wings out like this, saying, "Don't eat me, I'm massive." Absolutely worried sick about you eating it, making itself look big. You might walk it for 2 or 3 days, and most of the time it'll keep staring at you, looking up at you and spreading its wings out. That's normal. This bird is possibly less so. Because that bird is just staring you in the eye, hooding is easy. It doesn't see the hood coming to its face. It's not looking at the hood, it's staring past it, not breaking eye contact from your face. You're the biggest worry. The hood slips on, rolls over its head, no problem. At this stage, it's not even about having a hood on for any length of time. It's the act of hooding the bird. If you leave it a few days and the bird is wings folded like this guy happens to be here, more used to you, looking away from you to other things like how can I get out of here, rather than fixated on your face, ready for the attack, you've massively missed a window. This bird's already nothing like as easy to hood as yours will be, I'm sure. So it's going to look at the hood. And that's a massive problem. It's going to look at the hood and think, I don't want that on my head. And it'll dodge the hood. Most of the time, that freshly brand new bird isn't doing what this one's doing, looking around. It's staring at you. And that is your opportune window of learning, or rather hood training that bird. Don't miss it. It's much harder else. So we're going to have the hood upside down. This is what we're going to do. Upside under its chin. Can you see over there? Roll it over onto its head, over its nose in my case, over its beak in the bird's case, over onto its head. Don't even worry about doing it up. So if it's looking in there, you're halfway there. And it's just a matter of perseverance. But once you start hooding any raptor, once you decide and you try to get that hood on, you cannot fail. To the point, to be honest, as Jack Mavro would say, at any cost. Even if the bird's upside down and you end up slipping the hood on upside down. Because if the bird dodges your hooding and you decide, I'll try again later, you've rewarded all of its efforts in dodging that hood. And it will get exponentially harder to ever hood that bird without going back to basics and learning how to hood train a hood shy bird. Don't get to that stage. The hood has to go on. Don't let it dodge and you give up. Take your time. Don't get stressed. Take a deep breath. All we're doing, rolling the hood on, leave it on for a second, taking it off, doing it again. Like a bad habit. So it just doesn't matter anymore. Make sure that's a massive part of your manning. Roll it off. We don't need to do the braces up while we're doing this. We can do it up now and again. If your bird collapses or its head hangs down, as long as the hood isn't too tight and there's no damp spots inside where the eyes were, particularly damp, that's normal. If it does that, if it hangs its head down, as long as it can't be eaten by a predator, by all means, step it onto its perch, leave it hooded for a short while with the braces done up, just to get it used to the hood being on its head. So it has to become a real habit. The bird's looking in there. Well, as soon as its beak's inside that hood, roll it on. We're not pushing it on like a hat. We're not pushing it on its face. We're rolling it onto its head. This hood, remember it's a cheap one, it's when the braces are open, it's kind of staying in the closed position. So although it's loose, it's staying closed. And you'll see me use my little finger just to touch the back of the bird's head to give me something to help. It's hard. People who have really good to hood birds most often won't let you hood them because you can F up their bird's brilliant attitude towards a hood by doing it wrong, even though those birds are good to hood. So you've really got to think about this, do your research, and then persevere. But you've got to hood that bird from the second it stands on that fist onwards. A massive no-no. Do not get your bird hooding so beautifully for the first week that you think, oh, I won't bother hooding it much today. It's good to hood. You stop doing that hooding for a few days, you'll never get that hood on that bird again. It's got to be an OCD, silly habit that you just do constantly, certainly in the early stages. Roll it on, leave it on, roll it off. You can hear the bird tweeting All hawks and eagles make that silly tweety noise. It's a nervous sound. An eagle does it, it sounds ridiculous. It should roar or something. It still tweets out of nerve. So the hood under its chin, upside down, roll it over. Over it goes. You saw at the start of this clip, the bird baited at the sight of that hood. This bird's already too relaxed around me, believe it or not, to make hooding easy. But here we go, look. If it baits, let it get its composure. Even if you have the hood here, stroke it on the chest. You'll get there, but perseverance at this point of your falconry is going to be where the perseverance really, really matters. I hold my hoods like this and I roll them on. Some people hold them like this and roll them on. I have my little pinky up and I'm holding it very firmly. It makes a massive difference how you hold that hood. And over we go. Just a bad habit. Take the hood off, have a little walk around your garden. Have a walk around your house, but when the bird baits, do not let these wings hit anything. You'll bruise the wings or you'll break its feather tips. Who knows? Sign of a good falconer is you don't see them letting their birds batter themselves around door frames and so on and so forth. Something else to be doing, even with a golden eagle from day one. Touch your bird, especially its feet, because an eagle, even at this stage, personally, have fun. The birds generally, at this stage of nerves, they're not lashing out with their feet. Be quick to move if you can, but get it used to being touched, because that way, when you're greasing its jesses in the future, or you're coping its talons, trimming its talons, it's used to your hands being around its feet. If you don't do this, it really won't be, and it won't like its feet being touched. Touch it. Get used to just gentle feeling on its chest, because that's where the keel is. That's where your physical feel will back up what your weighing scales tell you about your bird's condition. Is the keel sharp and pointed like a fully carved off turkey in the oven? No meat left on there at all. Very, very hungry bird. Or can you only just feel the keel? Is the bird very fat, like this huge 1 pound 5 ounce fat male Arizona? But you can see this bird's already got its wings in. It could take you the best part of a week for, although it's tweetering nervously, for your bird to pull its wings in around you and start looking at other things, not just you. I think Henry's magnificent, and I think he's going to be too easy to train, which isn't going to help this video set one jot. Again, things go wrong, much easier for me to teach you stuff from my mistakes or my difficulties, but hopefully, whether it's textbook or not, you're going to learn a lot from this set of videos. But if you, I nearly swore, if you don't do this hooding thing, you're not going to be able to train your Harris hawk as I train mine. And that, sadly for your hawk, yeah, it just won't be as much fun for you, and it'll be more stressful for your hawk. The hood isn't there to stop it seeing stuff. The hood in this case is there so we can show it the whole world fast, furiously, without it getting stressed. Okay, so for this episode, we're putting the bird out hooded because he's been hooded overnight. We're leaving food by his perch, unhooding, walking away, straight away. Spy on him by all means, make sure he's predator proof, but don't sit there associating yourself with the whole feeding thing. We're going to do that for maybe the first, hold on. For the first 4 or 5 days, we're going to let him feed, let him chill out. We're going to let him learn about jesses. We're going to have a short leash so he doesn't break his legs. And we're going to let him learn to regain his bow perch. Once he's eating outside and regaining his perch, you're on to a winner. Hold on. And this is how it continues. We're going to pick the bird up a little, let him digest some of his food, let it go down. And then we're going to do some work with him, some manning. We're going to, if we can, if he'll stand on the glove, we're going to go around our indoors and outdoors of our property. We might not need to go any further for the next few days, but we're not going to sit there reading a book. We're going to put the bird in safety position before we untie it from its perch. And we're immediately going to tie it to our glove so we can't lose him and he's not going to fly in the air. At the moment, this guy's hanging after a bait. He's hanging by his jesses and I'm lifting him up. It's getting annoying, but that's the way it goes. Soon, he'll learn to fly straight back up to the glove himself. In this first week of your ownership and working with your hawk, in this first week, it will turn from possibly a very frightened of you bird, just doesn't understand the world it's suddenly been plunged into at all. I mean, think of it from its point of view. But in that first week, guys, this bird, your bird, is going to transform itself. And one thing that's going to help the bird no end is because you're going to hood it from the very first day you pick up that bird. And that will make your falconry so much easier. Something to throw in there, by the way, guys. When the bird baits and hangs from these jesses on the glove, do not do this. Try and swing it up with momentum, putting all that pressure on its leg joints and sockets. For goodness sakes, lift the bird gently back onto the glove, place its feet on your glove, maybe wiggle the glove a little bit to encourage it to grip. Don't be swinging your bird up. You look like a right idiot and it's tantamount to, yeah, being unkind. There's no harm if the bird baits a little bit too much for your liking. Hood him up. Carrying him around hooded still gives this young bird the feel for riding the glove. It will still be some benefit in that for sure. Let him calm, unhood him and try him again. Now, it's hard for me to remember, you know, I'm trying to go back to real basics. So when you're carrying the bird, your left arm, let it hang down by your side. No lifting it out, let it hang down. And then just raise your glove, your hand, higher slightly than your elbow. But let your arm, not like this, hang limp. And you won't then end up with terrible arm ache. It's not a hot cup of coffee filled to the brim. It will ride the glove like you and your horse. I hate horses. No, I don't. They just terrify me. Like a horse rider riding a horse. You'll get in that rhythm and it'll be just fine. You don't have to hold your hand out, walking very, very carefully and stiff. You're not going to spill your hawk. So here he is. He's getting spudderized. Spudderization is basically when you just immerse them into everything. Not softly. He's been all around the dogs. Granddaughter's been stroking him. It's all going on in here. This is only his second evening here. His second evening away from his parents and his breeding aviary. As soon as that bird of yours will stand on the glove without collapsing, absolutely immerse your Harris hawk in everything. Remember, the hood is there to chill out the bird before it gets stressed. Tweetering, so much going on. The bird's far more interested in what's going on than trying to bait and get away. One thing I want to show you, you might do it, can you see he's flicking his head? Little head flicks. Well, that head flicking is really common in Harris hawks that are really young. It's almost like a nervous response. It's not a parasite. It's not an illness. It's a constant little weird habit of head flicking and it will pass. It's really common in fresh young Harris hawks. Look at that. So 24 hours. Can you see that head flicking? That is really normal. 24 hours and this guy is in our house surrounded by dogs, tiny children, even the wife. Spudderization. Immersing that bird into everything straight away, not a softly approach. Spudderization is not a falconry term. It's a term that was first coined when my son Kyle had a hamster called Spud, the tamest hamster in the world. So I'll see you in a few days' time and we'll move on from there. Check out all the other stuff on the Harris Hawk playlist, guys. It will really help you and hopefully you're doing all this before you've got your hawk. I think he's great. Because at the end of the day, Harris hawks are truly fantastic birds to work with.